Ever since my younger brother Makoto was brought back, I have gradually been pushed to the margins of the family. To make up for him, my father immediately gave him my position and entrusted him with the project I had poured my heart and soul into. When the project went wrong, my sister gave false testimony, and the blame for his mess was placed squarely on my shoulders. He was all alone, and my wife showed him an unexpected amount of care, insisting that as an older sister-in-law, she should act like a mother and take care of the brother I had neglected for so long. Furious and unwilling to let this go, I confronted him, but he punched me down the stairs, breaking my leg. Just when I thought my mother would speak some words of justice, she instead advised me not to be petty. Even my daughter thought it would be better if Makoto were a father. In my hospital bed, consumed by anger and frustration, I had an unexpected awakening. It turns out, I was merely a villainous supporting character in an inspirational novel. All my struggles and efforts, all the sacrifices I made, were for the male lead, Makoto, to reap the rewards. Realizing my fate, I handed my wife and daughter over to Makoto and voluntarily gave up my inheritance and left the country. But when everyone thought I was a defeated man, abandoned by family and friends, I returned to the country with a bang and decisively took away Makoto's rewards. Chapter 1. When I first awakened, my so-called family members were still blaming me. My parents, who had always been fond of me, now stood by my younger brother. My mother said, "Makoto didn't do it on purpose. Besides, you were too harsh when you argued with him. It's understandable that he panicked. Both of you are at fault, and you only had a small injury. Let's just let it go. I'll take charge and move past it. Don't dwell on it anymore." She looked at me with a kindly expression, hoping that I would be like I used to be, grudging but still obediently going along with her wishes. And just as she hoped, I replied in a flat tone, "All right." Her hand paused for a moment before she comforted me. "I know things haven't been easy for you. When you get out of the hospital, I'll have the housekeeper make you something delicious." I nodded in silence. My sister Freya furrowed her brows, looking at me. "I'll help with the project. You don't have to take responsibility for Makoto anymore. Is that okay? Don't blame me. Makoto is still new, and can't handle that much pressure. Plus, there were mistakes in your handover too." I distinctly remembered that the documents I handed over to Makoto had everything meticulously detailed, what file to check, which folder, which page. But Makoto, in his usual hasty way, only skimmed through things, leading to a crucial error in the decimal places of the data. Of course, I didn't argue with Freya anymore. I simply grunted in response and stayed silent. There was nothing to argue about. She knew the problem was Makoto's, but to cover for him and shield him from the consequences, she planned to throw the whole blame onto me. After my awakening, her so-called selfless, elder sister persona became laughable to me. My cold responses seemed to make them uncomfortable. My father spoke up, "Rest well, and once you're out of the hospital, come back to the company and help Makoto. He's just joined, and he needs to make a name for himself. As his older brother, you should be more generous and lend him a hand. Once he's settled in the company, you can resume your position." I looked at my father curiously, wondering if he still remembered how proudly he used to claim that he treated all his children equally. When I joined the company, he insisted that I start from the ground up. I had no objections at the time, and worked my way up from the grassroots for 8 years to get to where I was. But when Makoto mentioned joining the company, my father immediately gave him my position, letting him take over the project I was about to finish. I smiled at my father and said, "There's no need to resume my position. When I'm out of the hospital, I'll handle all the handover work." Father furrowed his brows and said, "George, what are you doing? Are you messing with us?" I shook my head and replied calmly, "No, I'm just tired. I plan to resign." At that moment, Makoto, who had been acting like a meek little chick, stood up and said, "Bro, I know my qualifications aren't enough for this position, and having you assist me is a waste of your talents. You don't need to resign. I should be the one to resign. As for what happened with you being pushed down the stairs, although it was accidental, it was still my fault. I've been feeling guilty about it. I came here today to apologize. I didn't expect it to make you even more upset. I'm sorry." He looked apologetic, but his eyes were full of calculation. Unfortunately, everyone except me saw only his expression. Father immediately reprimanded me. "I've taught you to have a broad heart since you were young. Is this how you treat your brother?" Mother shook her head sadly. "Makoto was kidnapped when he was born and has suffered outside for so many years. It's only natural that we focus more on him now that we've finally found him." "George, why do you have to turn against the family over something like this?" Freya looked at me coldly and said, "Dad, Mom, don't waste your breath. George is acting like a spoiled young master, thinking everyone should revolve around him. You've been so patient, and does he even care? He's selfish." I barely managed a smile, inadvertently recalling how things used to be before Makoto came back, how warm my interactions with the family had been. But that warmth no longer stirred any emotions within me. It seemed this was a side effect of my awakening, no longer swayed by unnecessary emotions. I calmly replied to them, "Yes, yes, You're all right, but I'm tired now. Is that okay? Freya snorted and was about to speak, but my father interjected. All right. George needs rest. Let's head home for now. Once you're out of the hospital, we can talk properly as a family. Mother hesitated, then looked at me and said, I'll come see you again in a few days. Makoto turned to the woman beside him. Sister-in-law, please take good care of my brother. And Lily, remember to be obedient and not make your father angry. Okay. Freya also said, Sister-in-law, sorry for the trouble. Hearing the voices of the two siblings, I looked up to see Freya patting Willow's arm while Makoto crouched down and gently admonished Lily. Looking at the disdain and disapproval in their eyes as they glanced at me, I suddenly realized that in the midst of their silence, I had forgotten that my so-called wife and daughter were still in the room with me. Chapter 2. After my parents left, only Willow and Lily remained in the hospital room. Willow looked at me for a while and sighed. You used to be so mature and composed. How did you become so unreasonable? Makoto is your brother, and after suffering all those years, you should take better care of him. Why are you always at odds with him? I agreed, replying, You're right. As the older sister-in-law, I should take care of him. I'll leave him to you from now on. I'm tired and need to rest. She stamped her feet in anger and said, What kind of person are you? I've told you so many times. I take care of him because he's your brother. Can you clear your mind? I was truly exhausted, so I didn't bother reminding her that in just 6 months, her address of my brother had already changed to simply calling him Makoto. At that moment, I heard a childish voice. Dad, it's so low of you to argue with your own brother. 7-year-old Lily pursed her lips, her eyes full of disdain and contempt. I used to find her precociousness amusing, but since Makoto appeared, her maturity had turned into attacks against me. She thought I was too strict with her, didn't care about her, always focused on work, while her uncle Makoto often brought her small gifts. She hated that I always gave her uncle trouble and thought it was terrible. She clearly took after her mother. I smiled bitterly and said, If it's so low, just bear with it. Soon enough, you'll be free of it. I closed my eyes and added, All right, I really need to rest now. Just before I closed my eyes completely, I saw a flash of surprise and unease in Lily's eyes. I heard Willow scolding her, saying, What are you saying to a child? I didn't open my eyes to look at her, but her voice too held a trace of anxiety. What are these two mother and daughter up to? I kept my eyes shut, and after a while, I heard Willow's voice again. You rest and calm down. I'll take Lily home. As soon as they left the room, I heard Lily's voice outside. Mom, if only Uncle Makoto had been found sooner, then it would have been him marrying you, and my dad would have been him. Willow's voice was calm as she responded, Don't talk nonsense. Then, the mother and daughter gradually walked away. I listened to their conversation, but no longer felt the heart-wrenching pain I had before. Instead, I quickly drifted off to sleep. I dreamed of the past. I remembered when my parents and my sister Freya were united, and we were a happy family. The Wong family had once been on the brink of bankruptcy, and with the money we had, we could only afford to send one of us abroad for studies. My sister insisted on letting me go, no matter what. During those hardest times, my parents never complained, never reduced my living expenses, and never mentioned the family's financial struggles. They were always worried about whether I was eating and sleeping well. Then I dreamed of Willow. We were college classmates, and after spending a lot of time together in the same club, I began to develop feelings for her. She told me that she knew there was a big gap between our family backgrounds, and she wanted to become better so that she could be worthy of me. I insisted that my family never cared about social status, but she still rejected my financial support, insisting on splitting the living expenses and earning a scholarship through her own efforts. At that time, her love for me seemed so pure and sincere. I remembered once when one of her friends told her that a woman's youth is invaluable, that it's only natural to use a man's money, and that she shouldn't be fooled by me. As a result, Willow and her friend fell out and never spoke to each other again. My family knew we truly loved each other and supported us being together. Later, we got married and had Lily. I once rolled down a flight of stairs to save Lily and was unconscious for 3 days and nights. The doctor said I almost didn't make it. When I woke up, I saw Willow crying by my bedside, her eyes full of tears, saying that if I didn't wake up, she wouldn't live either. The scenes in my dream kept changing. Then I dreamed of Lily, when she was 3 years old and fell seriously ill. At that time, Willow was out of town and couldn't return. I was in charge of a major project for Wong, so I worked during the day and took care of Lily at night, sleeping only 10 hours over the course of 7 days. After she recovered, I fell seriously ill. Back then, little Lily, with her red eyes, said she wanted to grow up quickly so she could take care of me and not let me work so hard. Sometimes, I thought that my family love and my love life were perfect. Life had its struggles, but overall, it was going smoothly, and I was happy. I thought I would continue to be happy forever, until Makoto appeared in my life. When I woke up, I blinked, and the memories of that dream seemed so distant, as if I were watching someone else's story. Chapter 3. I stayed in the hospital for another 2 days, and after confirming that everything was fine, I was discharged. On the day I left the hospital, neither my parents nor Willow, who had said they would come pick me up, showed up. Instead, as I was hailing a cab, I saw Makoto's post on Moments. He wrote, "Thanks to my dad, mom, sister, sister-in-law, and little niece for coming early this morning to celebrate my birthday." I smiled and swiped past the post. They had indeed given me unforgettable family warmth, which is why I agreed, time and again, to give way to Makoto when they asked me to. But now, I felt that enough was enough. I still have a bright future ahead of me and can't keep drowning in this inescapable quagmire. When I got home, I began packing my things, and suddenly felt a wave of frustration. It wasn't because of them, but because I had lived in this house for so many years, and packing up all my belongings was going to take a lot of work. I kept packing until around 7 p.m., when the two of them came back. Willow opened the door and, upon seeing me, looked guilty as she said, "Sorry, honey, we were celebrating Makoto's birthday today and I forgot you were discharged. I just took Lily to the hospital and only realized you had already gone home." But soon, her tone shifted to one of reproach. She continued, "You should have let us know you were leaving the hospital. You made me and Lily run all the way there for nothing. Don't tell me you're mad about something trivial again." I shook my head and replied, "No, just busy. Forgot to message you." She frowned and said, "How could you forget something like this? And what's so busy about just getting discharged?" I said, "Packing my clothes." She asked, "What's there to pack? By the way, Lily and I rushed to pick you up, but we didn't have time to eat." Lily walked over and awkwardly said, "I want shrimp noodle soup." This was her way of making up with me. Whenever we had an argument, she would soon come to me and ask for something she wanted to eat, and I would smile and go to the kitchen to cook it for her. Here I am, a vice president of a large corporation, managing so many employees. Yet for this mother and daughter, I would wash my hands and cook, learning to make meals. In the end, I had nothing and ended up in a miserable, tragic situation. What was it all for? But, by now, I was also hungry, so I went into the kitchen, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw them both relax. 10 minutes later, I brought out a bowl of noodles and placed it on the table. Willow froze and asked, "Just one bowl?" Lily stopped in her tracks and asked, "Did you put chili in it? And chicken drumsticks?" Willow scolded, "How could you forget that Lily doesn't eat spicy food or chicken?" I took a sip of soup and smiled. "She doesn't eat it, but I do. I'm hungry too, so I thought it was fine to fill myself first." "No problem." The expressions of the mother and daughter immediately darkened. Lily said stiffly, "I'm not eating it." Willow shot me a cold glance and said, "I'll take Lily out to eat." I ignored their retreating figures and happily finished my bowl of noodles. Then, I went back to packing. Once I was almost done, I called my lawyer to discuss the divorce. I definitely couldn't use Wang's legal team. That would mean letting everyone know I was planning to divorce before I was ready. It was better to find someone I trusted more. Chapter 4. Willow and Lily didn't come home that night, but I wasn't bothered. After all, Willow was there as the mother, so there shouldn't be any problems. The next day, I went to the lawyer's office as planned. During the meeting, I received numerous calls, all from those so-called family members. I just muted the phone. When I finished the meeting and came out, it was already dusk. I randomly picked a number and called back. As soon as the call connected, I heard my mother's anxious voice. She said, "George, yesterday was Makoto's birthday, and we forgot to pick you up from the hospital." "That's wrong. But you can't just ignore your wife and child like that. If it wasn't for them going to find Makoto, I wouldn't even know you're not taking care of them." I was speechless. The nanny was off that day, and there was no one at home. What else could I do? Besides, they aren't broke. They can go out to eat by themselves. She sighed. "Listen to Mom. Don't stay mad at your daughter-in-law. Makoto feels guilty too, and you're making him uneasy. Your dad and sister don't want to see him upset." I replied. "Does that include you too?" She said. "George, don't say that. Both you and Makoto are my sons." "For Mom, the palms and backs of my hands are both the same." I asked in a neutral tone. "So, what do you want me to do?" She answered. "Just apologize first and make it up to them. Then explain to Makoto so he can feel better. What's the point of arguing over right and wrong in a family?" I laughed. "Fine, but I've been busy lately. I'll go see them in 2 or 3 days." She said. "You child." I didn't wait for her to finish. Hanging up the phone, I was thinking it's time to get the divorce over with. That would at least make things easier for them. When I got home, Willow and Lily were already there. When they saw me, their faces were as cold as ice. Willow was the first to speak up. "I didn't come back last night with Lily, and you didn't even care. Are you out fooling around?" I didn't want to explain that I wasn't out fooling around. I just said, "Well, you're the mother, right? I figured you'd take good care of her. Besides, you've said before that Lily thinks I'm too strict as a father, And she's afraid when she sees me. You wanted me to give her some space, remember? Both mother and daughter froze. They must have remembered that time when they didn't come home late. And Willow's calls went unanswered, almost making me call the police. Until I saw Makoto's post on Moments, I felt like a bucket of cold water had been dumped on me. From head to toe, the two of them had spent the day at a newly opened amusement park with Makoto. And in the evening, they had dinner together. Strangers thought they were a family of 3 and even offered to take a picture for them. Makoto's post had a photo of the 3 of them together, with a caption saying, "We were mistaken for a family of 3, LOL. He was using this to silence me, leaving me no excuse to confront him. After all, he had already said it was just for fun. After 10 p.m., I finally heard the sound of them opening the door. When I sharply questioned them, Willow replied disdainfully, "Lily needs her personal space, so don't be so controlling. And you didn't need to be in such a hurry. I'm the mother. Of course, I'll take care of Lily." Lily didn't speak, but her expression mirrored her mother's, cold and impatient. I shook off my thoughts and smiled at them. "I hope you had fun. I'll go wash up now. By the way, I've already eaten out. If you haven't, you can order takeout. The nanny won't be back until tomorrow." Lily suddenly spoke up, nervously saying, "There's a movie coming out next month that's perfect for a family of 3 to watch. Next month, by mid-month, if all goes smoothly, Willow and I would have passed the cooling-off period and gotten the divorce certificate." I smiled at Lily and said, "I'm busy, but you can ask Uncle Makoto. He should be happy to take you." Lily stood there, a hurt expression flashing in her eyes. Her temper flared, and she said stiffly, "You're right. I'll go with Uncle Makoto then." With that, she stormed off to her room and slammed the door. Both mother and daughter were fond of slamming doors. Witnessing this, Willow angrily said, "George, have you had enough?" Lily was trying to make amends, and you had to act all sarcastic. "She's still a child. When did your heart become so small?" Then, her tone shifted, and she looked exhausted, saying, "George, I know you're mad at me. I can change. Lily will change too. Please don't act like this, okay?" If she had said this any day before I went to the hospital, I would have told myself to let the past go. After all, they were my wife and child. I should trust them. But now, it was too late. For the past 3 years, after every argument, I wanted to sit down and have a heart-to-heart talk with her. I just wanted to talk to her. But every time, Willow would inexplicably shift the topic and accuse me of not admitting my faults. In the end, it would always turn into her criticizing me, and Lily would bluntly tell me she didn't want to listen. If I wanted her to get closer to me, I had to learn from her Uncle Makoto on how to interact with her, instead of being so strict. Now, I had learned, but they weren't happy with it. Chapter 5. On Monday, I sent my resignation letter to Freya's email and began writing handover documents. Within 5 minutes, Freya summoned me to her office with a cold tone. "What are you trying to pull now?" I replied. "Resigning. What else would it be?" She let out a laugh, as if she had heard a joke. She said, "How old are you? Still trying to threaten people with resignation?" Freya suddenly appeared somewhat helpless and said, "George, I apologize for my sister's attitude before, but why can't you get along with Makoto? He's not even adopted, he's our biological brother." I had once hoped for that too, but Makoto didn't want it. From the first day he entered the house, I saw the jealousy and hostility in his eyes. Makoto was determined to take everything that mattered to me, and I was tired. I no longer wanted to fight him. Of course, Freya wouldn't believe it, so I said nothing and just looked at her. It seemed like she realized I was serious, and her expression grew increasingly grim. Finally, she coldly said, "If you want to resign, talk to Dad about it." I nodded. "I will, but you'll follow the process here too. Also, hurry up and find someone to take over my responsibilities, whether it's Makoto or anyone else. In a month, I'll be gone." Freya bit her lip and said, "Then leave." I turned to walk out, but when I reached the door, she called me back. "Are you resigning to save your relationship with Willow and Lily? If so, I can talk to them." I interrupted her. "I'm doing this for myself. I'll leave now." After work, I received a call from my father, inviting me to dinner at home on Saturday. He also mentioned that Willow and Lily would be there. After hanging up, I received a call from the lawyer, saying the divorce agreement had been drafted and would be sent to my email for me to review. I felt a surge of energy and quickly went home to check my email. After reading through it carefully, I was very impressed with the lawyer's efficiency and professionalism. The door opened, and Willow and Lily had returned. They were an hour later than usual. I checked WeChat and didn't see any posts from Makoto, unsure whether I had been blocked or if he simply hadn't posted anything. However, considering it takes about half an hour from school to home, they probably didn't have enough time to eat with Makoto. Willow looked tired. She looked at me and said, "Today, I went to pick up Lily. Her teacher said she hasn't been paying attention in class lately and has been very irritable, often arguing with her classmates. George, no matter how angry you are, Can you put it aside for now? Lily is still your daughter. You're her father. And you can't just ignore her. I looked at Lily. Every time I disciplined her, she'd run and hide behind her mother, crying and complaining. Willow would take the opportunity to scold me, saying my method was too harsh, that children need to be spoken to, not punished. I could discipline her, but did she really need it? I crouched down in front of her and asked, Lily, is something bothering you? If you want to talk about it, I'm here. If it's within my power, I'll help you. Willow was right about one thing. Lily was my daughter, whether she was an adult or not, at least for now. I couldn't let a 7-year-old go down the wrong path. Lily pressed her lips together and said without hesitation, I want my dad to always be my dad. I patted her head and promised, as long as you recognize me, I'll always be your dad. I turned to look at Willow, who also had a cold expression. She said sharply, of course, she'll recognize you. What are you even talking about? This didn't match the plot I knew. According to what I understood, during the family dinner on Saturday, I would explode with anger seeing the closeness between Willow, Lily, and Makoto. Willow would be completely disappointed in me and ask for a divorce. Lily would point at me, saying she didn't want such a cruel man as her father. I had no expectations of Willow, but I couldn't deny that Lily still tugged at my heart. So, this was her last chance. Chapter 6. On Saturday, Willow, Lily, and I arrived at the old house on time. As soon as the door opened, Makoto was the first to greet me. He looked at me with joy and said, Brother, I'm really happy you came. His expression was so sincere. No wonder he could become the main character. I kept a neutral tone and replied, Dad asked me to come, so of course I had to. My father seemed a little awkward. He cleared his throat and said, All right, we're just having a meal as a family. No need to make it so formal. At the dinner table, my mother was very careful, serving Makoto some food and then quickly serving me the same. My dad spoke up, By the way, George, don't bring up your resignation again. He put down his chopsticks and added, Dad will give you a long vacation, and when you come back, you can continue as vice president. As for Makoto, I'll start a new company for you to gain experience, and when you're ready, you can join the main company. Makoto smiled humbly and said, I have no objections. I'll listen to Dad. I do need more experience and need to learn more. But the way he gripped his chopsticks was so tight that he nearly broke them. Freya looked at me with a smile and asked, Is the young master satisfied now? I smiled politely. Makoto wasn't someone who would passively take a beating. He certainly had something up his sleeve. After dinner, my mother pulled me to a side room to chat. She asked how I was doing, and it felt like things were back to the way they were before Makoto came. But still, something felt different. After talking with my mother, I went to the living room and heard voices coming from the garden. I walked over to see. In the garden, Lily was looking down, too shy to meet Makoto's eyes. She said, Sorry, Uncle, I decided to go watch the movie with Dad. Then she added hastily, But I'll watch other movies with you later. Makoto's face paled slightly, but he gently reassured her, Silly child, there's no need to apologize. Watching a parent-child movie with your dad is completely normal. Willow looked at them with tenderness in her eyes and said softly, If only George cared as much as you do, Uncle. Makoto, understanding, said, Sis, don't say that. Brother acts this way because he cares about you all. Sometimes I wonder, if I hadn't come back to this house, would that have been better for everyone? Willow quickly interrupted, Don't say that. We never thought that. Lily likes you very much. Lily nodded repeatedly, saying, Uncle, I've always hoped you could be my dad, but Mom says Dad has done a lot for me, and I can't make him sad. At this moment, Makoto noticed me from an angle where Willow and Lily couldn't see. He made a smug gesture with his mouth, Trash. Then, pretending to be surprised, he called out to me, Brother. Willow and Lily were both startled and looked over at me, their faces filled with panic. Makoto took 2 quick steps, grabbed my hand, and explained, Brother, please listen to me. Just hear me out, okay? His voice even had a hint of a sob. I calmly pried his hand away. Willow pursed her lips and said, All right. Makoto didn't mean anything by it. We didn't say anything wrong. George, don't be like this. I was speechless. I hadn't said anything or done anything yet, though Lily was nervous. She stepped forward and stood in front of Makoto, afraid I would hurt him. Makoto said, Sis, Lily, can you both leave for a moment? I want to speak to Brother alone. Though they were worried, they listened to Makoto and left, looking back at me and him constantly. I knew that wasn't worry for me, it was concern for Makoto. Once it was just the two of us, Makoto's expression changed. He sneered and said, Does it hurt to see the person you care about only care for me, brother? I was puzzled and asked, Why do you have so much hatred for me? I was only 2 when you were taken away. Makoto gradually became unhinged. Because I can't accept it. Why? After all, are we both sons of the Wong family? You've lived like a young master for over 20 years. while I've lived worse than a beggar. I know you look down on me because I only graduated from college, but I've been tortured by those two scumbags since I was young. I had to do all the household chores and never had time to study. I only managed to get into college because that family had an accident and died while I was in high school. That's when I was finally free. So I hate you. I will take everything you care about, everything you love." He calmed down, his malice completely unmasked, and said, "Now, your parents, sister, wife, and daughter still care about you, but I'll tell you this. Soon they will all completely despise you. Just wait." I asked calmly, "I thought you were jealous because you missed mom and dad, and maybe even fell in love with my wife." He laughed as if hearing something absurd. They're just tools for my revenge. I want you to watch as your parents, sister, wife, and daughter all turn against you, abandon you." With that, he left, walking away with a smug look on his face. I watched his back, feeling no anger or anxiety, only curiosity. What was he going to do next? 3 days later, I found out. Chapter 07. That morning, as I was just waking up, Willow barged into my bedroom, her face red with anger. Yes, since I was discharged from the hospital, I've been sleeping in a separate room from her. I had never seen Willow like this before, her eyes swollen from crying, her face full of resentment. She screamed, "Makoto has committed suicide. Are you happy now?" I was speechless. When we arrived at Makoto's hospital room, I saw my parents and Freya, all with red eyes, gathered around his bed. Lily rushed over and cried, "Uncle, what happened to you? Don't scare me." When my mother saw me, her expression changed completely. She had always been gentle with me, but in that moment, she marched over and scolded me with fury. "What did you say to Makoto that day? Why did he do this?" She looked at me with hatred and continued, "He swallowed an entire bottle of sleeping pills." My father stared at me coldly and said, "I've approved your resignation. From now on, you have nothing to do with the Wong family. I won't argue with you about the money you've spent over the years, but don't expect a single cent from me in the future. All of the family assets will go to your sister and Makoto." Freya glared at me and said, "Don't even think about using the Wong name to make money. If I find out, I won't let you off the hook." I nodded. Over the years, the money I made for the company far exceeded what the Wong family had spent on me, so I owed them nothing. And during my time working there, I also made some personal investments with the salary I earned from Wong, which allowed me to achieve financial freedom long before all this happened. Suddenly, my mother broke down in tears again, sobbing, "George, why have you become like this? Do you know that Makoto wrote a suicide note saying he shouldn't have come back? When he was unconscious, he kept apologizing to you, saying he never wanted to take anything from you, that he didn't hate you. You two are brothers. Can't you forgive him?" I looked at my mother and thought, if Makoto were awake right now, he would surely be enjoying this moment. I rolled my eyes and turned to leave, but the next moment, Willow stopped me, her voice trembling as she said, "Wait, I can't live with a man like you anymore. I'll contact a lawyer in the next few days to draft the divorce agreement." Lily, wiping her face, chimed in, "Yes, a man like that doesn't deserve to be my dad." She shouted angrily, "I don't want such a malicious person to be my father." Those words were the final blow. Then she threw herself onto Makoto's bed again, crying, "Uncle, I was wrong. From now on, I'll only listen to you. I'll watch that movie with you. Just please wake up." I coldly replied to Willow, "No need to wait for these 2 days. I already have the divorce agreement ready. If you have time, you can check it over. If everything is fine, just sign it." "What did you say?" Willow's face turned pale, and she looked at me in disbelief. "You already have the divorce agreement. When did you prepare it?" I smiled slightly and replied, 2 days after I was discharged from the hospital." Willow's chest heaved as she stammered, "George, how dare you?" Freya couldn't tolerate my indifference anymore and grabbed my left hand forcefully, saying, "Go and apologize to Makoto. Don't stop until he wakes up, or I'll never acknowledge you as my brother again." I raised my right hand and shoved her away. Before she could say anything else, I frowned and said, "Miss Wong, my left hand was severely injured. I hope you won't grab it so tightly." Freya froze, her expression changing instantly. My parents also looked shocked, their faces turning pale. I knew they remembered now. Years ago, when our family was attacked by enemies after the bankruptcy, it was my left hand that was shattered while protecting them. Since then, I couldn't lift heavy objects or move with agility. Freya's lips trembled, and she stepped back, her face as white as a ghost. I looked at them and said, "If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving now." As I was about to exit the room, I thought I heard a whisper, "George." The next day, Willow and I went to the civil affairs office to finalize the divorce. When she returned home with Lily the day before, she saw me waiting with the printed divorce agreement in hand. She had no way to avoid it, and because of her harsh words before, she could only grit her teeth and sign it. After leaving the civil affairs office, I immediately called a moving company to move my already packed belongings out of the house I had lived in for so many years. After the 1-month cooling-off period, we met again at the Civil Affairs office. I was the first to sign. Her hands trembled slightly. Suddenly, she threw the pen down in anger and yelled, "George, you're so cruel. To prove you don't care, you're even willing to abandon your own daughter." At this, the staff at the Civil Affairs office gave me strange looks. It was laughable. Now she was trying to claim the moral high ground, throwing dirt at me. During this entire month, we hadn't contacted each other at all. Meanwhile, Makoto had been sending messages every day, boasting about how Willow had been going to care for him and how Lily visited him often. To prevent Willow from focusing too much on taking care of Makoto and forgetting about the divorce, I made sure to remind her before the cooling-off period ended. It was much later when I received her angry voice message reply. She said, "Don't worry, I'll be there." Bringing myself back to the moment, I frowned and replied, "Aren't you happy that you can finally be with my brother?" Her face turned deathly pale. The energy drained from her, and she quickly signed the papers. We left the Civil Affairs office, and with a smile on my face, I said, "Goodbye, Willow, never to see her again." Chapter 08. 5 years later, Anna, our son, and I returned to the country. David, riding on my back, said, "Dad, are you tired? I can walk by myself." Anna smiled and added, "Your son's worried about you. Let me carry him for a bit." David wasn't heavy, so carrying him wasn't a problem, but I decided to give in and handed him over to Anna. However, just as I did, a voice, trembling with confusion, called out, "Dad." I turned around to see Willow and Lily standing there, staring at me. It had been years since we last saw each other. Lily had grown taller, while Willow looked much more worn out. Willow's voice trembled as she said, "George, you're back." She stepped forward to grab my hand, but I quickly took a step back, avoiding her touch. That's when she noticed Anna beside me. She asked, "Who is she?" Willow's eyes flashed with anger. I replied politely, "This is my wife, and this is my son." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You're married, and you have a child?" David tilted his head in confusion and asked, "Dad, who are they?" Lily retorted, "He's my dad, not your dad." Like an angry little lion, she rushed toward me, but I quickly stepped in front of George and pushed her back. She froze, tears welling up in her eyes, and said, "Dad, don't you want me anymore?" She cried and sobbed, saying, "I was wrong, Dad. I shouldn't have believed that bad person. Please come back. I only want you as my dad. I won't trust anyone else again." Willow's eyes were red as she said, "Why didn't you give us the recording earlier? If I had seen it sooner, I wouldn't have married that bastard Makoto." At that moment, a Cullinan stopped by the roadside, and the driver quickly got out and walked toward us. The driver said, "Madam, I'm sorry I'm late." I gestured for Anna to take David and get in the car first. She gave me a glance and whispered in my ear, "Come back soon, or I'll get jealous." I shot her a look and replied, "My taste isn't bad enough to go back to someone like her." Once they got in the car, I turned to Willow and said with a smile, "I deliberately made sure you ended up with Makoto. How else could I justify the pain I went through all those years?" Willow's face went pale. "I'm sorry, George. I knew you wouldn't forgive me and Lily, but I still held on to a glimmer of hope." Lily was crying uncontrollably. She shouted, "Dad, I really know I was wrong. Give me one more chance. Just one last chance." I bent down, sighed, and said, "You used up that last chance 5 years ago. Let's just say our father-daughter bond was shallow. Lily, the only advice I have for you is to look forward, not back at things that can never be undone." She wanted to say more, but I didn't give her the chance. I turned and got into the car. A month after I left, Willow married Makoto, and my father officially appointed Makoto as vice president of Wong. I kept an eye on them, and after Makoto had secured his position and Willow got pregnant, I sent a recording to Wong's family and Willow's phone. It was of the conversation between Makoto and me in the garden of the old house. After sending it, I stopped caring about them, until today. Once we got in the car, Anna, along with our domestic branch employees, greeted me, and she started reporting on the recent situation of the Wong family and Willow and Lily. In short, things hadn't gone well for them. After Willow learned the truth, she broke down. No matter how much Makoto begged her, she insisted on divorcing him, even though she was pregnant and had to terminate the pregnancy. During an argument, Makoto missed a step and fell down the stairs, breaking his leg. Willow held a grudge against him for his actions and refused to call for help. By the time they got him to the hospital, his leg was beyond saving, and he would walk with a limp for the rest of his life. Makoto tried to get Wong's family to intervene, but they saw him as a foe after receiving the recording. His mother avoided him. His father cruelly mocked him, saying that a disabled man didn't deserve to inherit the Wong family business, and Freya even kicked him out of the house. With nowhere else to go, he clung to the idea of not divorcing. But Willow grew more and more distant, even moving to another house with Lily. Makoto, filled with resentment, secretly sold the confidential information he had collected about Wang and Lu companies to rival firms. Both companies suffered significant setbacks in crucial projects. Their cash flows were cut off, and they nearly went bankrupt. Now, both companies were barely holding on, having to sell assets and downsize. Makoto, on the other hand, was sent to a care facility by the angry families of both companies. Freya spared him from the asylum, but the facility he was sent to was a beautiful, peaceful place. Though he would never leave, he would likely remain there for years, and eventually, he might even end up in the asylum after all. When I heard this, I chuckled and said, well, I should thank Makoto. Without him, we wouldn't have gotten this advantage. Anna and I had come back to handle the acquisition of Wang and Lu's assets. Anna smiled, wrapping herself around me, and said, so it's all thanks to you, right? Didn't you sell their company secrets? She then remembered something and looked worried. I saw your daughter crying and begging today. You didn't soften, did you? You didn't. Right. You can't be soft-hearted. I rubbed my forehead, exasperated. Are you done yet? Glancing at our son, who had already fallen asleep, I softened and said, David's my only child. She snorted. Well, that's better, I said. Wife, if you're so worried, why don't we have more kids? Let's have a few more. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, wife. Before I could finish, Anna angrily pinched my arm. Chapter 09. During my time back in the country, my father, mother, and Freya all came to see me, but each time, I avoided them. Eventually, I couldn't avoid them anymore and had to face them. Years had passed, and my parents had aged significantly. Even Freya had a few strands of white hair, clearly showing how much they had been burdened by the company's issues over the years. My mother grabbed my hand, tears in her eyes. My father sighed deeply, and Freya hesitated, but in the end, she didn't say a word. They apologized, begged for my forgiveness, admitting that they had been blinded by their own judgments and didn't realize how wicked Makoto was. They said they hoped I would return and that the family business would still be mine to inherit. I politely declined, saying, I'm here today to tell you that my connection with you ended 5 years ago. I hope you won't come looking for me anymore. If you do, I can't guarantee how much Wang's assets will sell for. Without waiting for their reaction, I stood up and left. Behind me, I could hear their regretful sighs. It felt like a lifetime ago. After that, they never came to find me again. As for Lily, I don't know what Willow told her, but they never appeared in front of me again. However, on the day Anna, David, and I were leaving for M country after handling the acquisition, our bodyguard informed us that 5 people, 4 adults and 1 child, had been secretly watching us at the airport. The bodyguard was someone Anna hired, worried that these people might harass me again. David, a bit anxious, asked, are they the people who said they were from Dad's family? I smiled and pinched his cheek. They're just unrelated people. After we entered the boarding gate, I received a few messages from unknown numbers on my phone. I glanced at them, and they all contained words like, forgive me, I'm sorry, and I'll always wait for you. I didn't open them in detail and simply deleted them all at once. The people who abandoned me are part of yesterday's past. But it's okay. I looked at Anna and David. At least, fate allowed me to find the one who truly loves me.